entered the cottage, the house was silent. Not the quiet of an empty house, but the hush of a storm about to break. Father was sitting in the parlour, the wireless still hissing. He turned to me, white-faced, the scar on his cheek livid as a brand. "Father, is it true?" I said. "Are we at war?" He nodded. "Oh dear," he said. "Oh dear, oh dear." A spasm of coughing shuddered up from deep inside him, and he fumbled his handkerchief from his pocket, pressing it to his mouth. I hurried to the kitchen for a glass of water and his tablets. The gas attack that killed Edward Baxter had not only left the marks on Father's face and hands, but also caused permanent damage to his lungs, which flared up whenever he was ill or distressed. I gave him the water and tablets and sat down in the other armchair, waiting for his coughing fit to pass. The parlour was gloomy. The cottage was overshadowed by the high wall that separated the hospital grounds from the road outside. The air smelt faintly of last night's cabbage and furniture polish. Like the rest of the cottage, it was neat but shabby. It had anaglypta wallpaper painted a curious shade of green, an ancient sofa and chairs, a bookcase and a threadbare rug, all of which belonged to the hospital. The only piece of furniture that was our own was the piano, which no one ever played. On the top stood my mother's photograph, in a silver gilt frame. Looking around at it all, I was assaulted by a sudden pang of longing to be back on the beach, surrounded by the sea and the sky and the bright calls of the gulls. To be back in that moment before Alfie came running up to me, and war was still something people were just talking about in the grocer's, the butcher's, and the post office. Father ignored the tablets, sipping the water until his coughing subsided. He had a glassy, far-away look on his face, the one he got when he shouted himself awake at night, and I had to run to his room to grab his flailing arms to stop him sending the jug on the washstand smashing to the floor, or when he trembled at the sound of Alfie's father's motorcycle backfiring out in the road. I knew he was back in that muddy trench in Belgium in 1915, cowering with the rest of his regiment as the shells screamed overhead. "We'll be all right, Father," I said in the cheerful tone I always used when he was like this. "I doubt old Hitler will bother with a place like Bartonford." He frowned at Mother's photograph, working his hands together. Gradually his gaze cleared. He looked so forlorn that I got up, went over to his chair and crouched down beside him, patting his hand as if he were the child and I the adult. "I couldn't bear it if anything happened to you, Ruby," he said. "You're all I've got." "I know, Father, and I'm not going anywhere. We'll be safe enough here, you'll see." He gave me a smile, although his eyes were still full of worry. "You're a good girl. I don't know how I'd manage without you. I really don't." "Let's have a cup of tea," I said, still in that bright voice. "We'll both feel better then." He nodded slowly. I stood and went through to the kitchen to put the water on to boil. Many years have passed since then, but that day stands out as clearly in my mind as if it was yesterday. Remembering it, I can't help wondering why the moments that change your life, the ones that really, truly change it forever, can feel so insignificant at the time. When Alfie came to find me, I felt certain it would be the declaration of war that would tip my world on its head. Now I realise it wasn't until that German plane fell from the sky, 4 years later, that the wheels were set in motion for everything else that followed. It made me wonder, if we could see our fate bearing down on us like a juggernaut, would we do things differently? Would we try to step out of its way? Would I have loved you, even though it made me reconsider almost everything about what I thought mattered to me and what family really meant? Yes, of course I would. There's nothing I'd have done differently. Nothing at all. Because to not know you, to not love you, to not have Ellen, who, for so long, was the only person who could bring a smile back to your face, that would have been far worse. Part 1, 1943. Chapter 1, Ruby. July. Hidden amongst the dunes above Bartonford Beach, I threw my head back and yelled. The wind snatched my voice away, and Toffee looked at me with his head tilted sideways, one ear pricked. I bent and rubbed the top of his head.